Vous savez qui je suis? Je ne sais pas qui je suis. Vertel me wie ik ben. Weet je wie ik ben? Hou dan godverdamme op met dat gezeik. En zeg het me.
You know what that means? It's Latin. Means know thyself. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Being the one is just like being in love. No one can tell you you're in love, you just know it, through and through.
This is the construct. It's our loading program. We can load anything from clothing to equipment, weapons, training simulations, anything we need.
They say we only use a fraction of our brain's true potential. Now, that's when we're awake. When we're asleep, our mind can do almost anything. Well, dreams, they feel real while we're in them, right? It's only when we wake up that we realize something was actually strange. How did you get here? Where are you right now?
And then I felt it. I was blind, but now I see.
I know Kung Fu.
Show me.
Halfway around the world, Victor has arranged to meet Dr. Herbert Benson of the Harvard Medical School. Benson's study of Buddhist meditation has revealed new insights about the ways the mind can affect the health of the body. For years, Dr. Benson has been conducting experiments on monks at Tibetan monasteries in India to understand the brain's ability to alter the body's metabolism. The results have stunned modern scientists.
What we found with respect to their oxygen consumption, in simple meditation, they decrease their metabolism upwards of 64%. And this was the largest decrease in oxygen consumption that was ever recorded in experiments by a simple restful procedure.
Carefully monitoring a form of Dzogchen meditation known as Tumo, the yoga of inner heat, Benson came up with even more intriguing results.
What we found initially in Tumo was that monks were able to increase their skin temperature in environments of 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit.
But his most unexpected finding was yet to come.
Well, what we found in these monks in very cold environments of 40 degrees Fahrenheit, wrapping themselves in wet sheets, these monks astoundingly could increase their temperature enough to get the sheets steaming and dry the sheets. You and I would go into uncontrollable shivering and perhaps even die of too low blood pressure.
Steam rising off the sheets. No pains of hypothermia.
They were quite comfortable there simply by performing their Tumo meditational heat yoga.
When asked how they do it, the monks describe relaxing, focusing on their breathing. They picture air coming in and out as a kind of energy. They visualize it as a flame, a fire that courses through the chest. Dr. Benson has also discovered that anyone who performs the initial steps of meditation will have a major impact on his or her body. Even for modern patients, the effects are profound. Meditation can help the treatment of stress-related health problems such as anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, and cardiac irregularities. Over the past 20 years, Dr. Benson's study of Buddhist meditation has proven that it can create certain very concrete physical changes.
Learning about Dr. Benson's work has given me a glimpse of the tremendous powers. If they could actually dry icy sheets using heat visualization techniques.
This is the extraordinary story of a man who could control the uncontrollable, a man of many facets and many roles, but above all, a man of indomitable faith. At 21, he journeyed to Tibet to meet with his Grand Master and to further his knowledge of yogic practices. In spite of deep knowledge of the scriptures and great expertise of yogic techniques, his master was aware that the young adept had yet to acquire dispassion and non-attachment. He instructed Swami Rama to travel the country and to undertake periods of intense meditation. It was at this stage that Swami Rama was sighted by hunters. The picture they took of him meditating amongst crocodiles came to the attention of Dr. Kurtkoti, the Shankaracharya of Karvipitham, who was looking for a successor. He sent scholars to observe this young, virtually unknown adept. Shortly thereafter, he was installed to the position of Shankaracharya, one of the most regarded spiritual positions of the country. He was 24. Back with his master in the Himalayas, Swami Rama spent many years intensifying his meditation. As he would recall later in his life, these mountains are so calm and serene that one is led to a spontaneous state of silence. Those residing in these mountains naturally become meditators. Following the instructions of his master, for 11 months he lived in complete isolation, in a cave with a tiny opening. His food was left outside. He cleansed his body through vigorous yogic techniques of pranayama. 11 months later, he emerged, a man with a purpose, with determination to serve humanity and to build a bridge between science and spirituality. Swami Rama began his task by studying Western philosophy and psychology at universities in Bangalore, Prayag and Varanasi. He completed a degree of Doctor of Homeopathic Medicine and Surgery at Darbhanga. He then travelled to Europe, where he continued his studies at several universities, including Oxford. He worked for a while as a medical consultant in London and assisted in parapsychological research in Moscow. He returned to India in 1966 and established a clinic and an ashram at Rishikesh on the banks of the Ganges. 2 years later, he journeyed to Japan. He met with the spiritual head of Tsukyo Mahikari, Reverend Okada-san. Much to his surprise, when Swami Ram was introduced to him, Okada-san instantly embraced him and said, "I have been waiting for you. I hope you will help me learn the secret teachings of the Himalayan masters." Swami Rama stayed in Japan for 6 months and taught various spiritual groups in Tokyo and Osaka. From Japan, he embarked upon another long journey, this time to the United States of America. Upon his arrival, he was invited by Dr. Elmer Green to the Menninger Foundation at Topeka, Kansas. Dr. Green was working on a project investigating the voluntary control of involuntary states. Swami Rama was to be the subject. The general scientific consensus at that time was that the human mind was capable of controlling only those bodily functions that lay in the realm of consciousness. Swami Rama was to prove them wrong. The experiments revealed astonishing results. Swami Rama demonstrated extraordinary control over his brain, heart, circulatory and nervous systems. He commanded his brain to produce theta and delta waves on demand. Delta waves are associated with deep sleep. Yet, he accurately recalled all that transpired in the room during that period. He produced different temperatures on adjacent areas of the palm of his hand, a 10-degree difference, by dilating one artery and constricting the other. He raised his heartbeat to 300 beats a minute, creating a condition known as atrial flutter, which stops the heart from pumping blood. He held it for 17 seconds, time enough to kill a man. In another demonstration, using mental power alone, he caused a 14-inch knitting needle mounted on a shaft 5 feet away to spin. Swami Rama was the first yogi to subject himself to modern scientific investigations. His demonstrations undoubtedly took the scientific community and others by storm.
You're saying then that all of us have the capacity to control what we have heretofore thought of as the involuntary features of our body.
Right. But there are two sets of muscles. One is called voluntary and another is involuntary system.
Yeah.
So far, people think that involuntary system is not under our conscious control, but that's not true.
Our involuntary system can be controlled, you're saying?
Very easily.
Including our breathing?
Yeah.
Can I control my breathing without thinking about it?
No.
The experiments he participated in helped revolutionize scientific thinking regarding the relationship between body and mind, previously thought to be limited to voluntary processes. Reports of these demonstrations were documented in numerous leading scientific journals of the time. Owing to mounting interest, Swami Rama embarked upon a series of lectures. He explained that his work was based on a simple fact. Body, mind, soul and breath are interconnected. Yoga is a spiritual science that helps awaken one to the deeper dimensions of being. One thus achieves complete control over physical, biochemical, biological and psychological functions. He explained that power over the autonomic nervous system lies in the proper method of breathing. The first step was to observe one's breath. His simple explanations to complex phenomena, combined with his humility, won him many admirers. People from different walks of life regarded him as their teacher.
So we're just to take a brief adventure through the neuroscience of breathing and how it relates to brain states. And there's some fun tools in here, so forgive me for this tangent, but you have two brain areas that are responsible for breathing. One is called, for the aficionados, the pre-Buttsinger complex. It was discovered by Jack Feldman at UCLA. It's named after a bottle of wine, so now people won't forget it. And it controls rhythmic breathing. So inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. It's just rhythmic breathing. There's another brain area that controls breathing, which is near what's called the parafacial nucleus, which involves breathing anytime there are double inhales or double exhales or triple inhales. And you say, well, why would you have this second brain area for breathing? Well, it turns out when you're speaking or crying or coughing, you need to coordinate your breathing with your speaking. And that means sometimes you need to take multiple inhales or multiple exhales. And this is all happening very, very fast. You don't notice. But there's a very important discovery that was made a few years ago by Jack's lab and by a guy named Mark Krasno at Stanford, who discovered there's a set of neurons in your brainstem, my brainstem, everybody's brainstem, and every mammal's brainstem. It's a very small number of neurons that controls a specific pattern of breathing, which are called physiological sighs. So these are not just sighs where you go and exhale. These are sighs that involve doing 2 inhales and then an extended exhale.
We all do this.
You do this during sleep. Anytime carbon dioxide levels in your bloodstream get too high, in order to get more oxygen into your system. People also do this if they've been crying or sobbing. They'll do this and then they'll exhale. So what's happening with these physiological sighs and why is this powerful? So your lungs are 2 big bags of air, but they actually are made up of a ton of little sacs of air called the alveoli of the lungs. When we are exercising or when we are sleeping or anytime we're doing anything, these little sacs of air eventually start to collapse. And what happens is carbon dioxide builds up in our system and we experience that as stress. We actually feel the impulse to breathe because carbon dioxide levels get too high. There are neurons that sense carbon dioxide. And then without realizing it, you do a double inhale and then exhale. Typically the inhales are done through the nose and the exhale is done through the mouth. So it looks like, And why the second inhale? Well, if you've ever tried to blow up a balloon for a kid at a kid's party, or just blown up a balloon, you sometimes blow into that empty balloon. It doesn't go anywhere. So what do? You do two. You go, and then it pops open. So these double inhales pop open the alveoli of the lungs. They don't explode them, but they pop them open, which pulls carbon dioxide out of the bloodstream, brings oxygen, and then you offload carbon dioxide. So if you watch a dog right before it takes a nap or something, it often will do these. Now what's cool about these physiological sighs is from work in our lab, and that's still ongoing, I just want to say it's still ongoing, but work in other labs as well, double inhales followed by an extended exhale are the fastest way that I'm aware of to bring the mind and the body into a more relaxed state.
Really?
Yeah.
The fastest way. So if I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, just do a 3 or 2?
2 inhales through the nose, and then exhale slow through the mouth. 1 to 3 of those repeated will bring your level of autonomic arousal down basically to baseline. But I think for anyone that experiences anxiety from time to time, which is everybody, knowing that you can consciously take control over these neurons that control the ratio of carbon dioxide and oxygen in your lungs, etc. Even if you don't remember any of that, it's just 2 inhales through the nose. What you're trying to do is maximally inflate those little sacs in your lungs and then exhale long through the mouth because you're blowing off carbon dioxide.
I heard you do does it matter the cadence? Because you did a long deep breath and then a shorter.
Not so much.
That's just your style.
Yeah, you're just trying to fill those as big as you can. So the advice that we hear of take a deep breath or just exhale is sort of right, but it doesn't capture this neural circuit. So a lot of what my lab is focused on, because there's so many great labs and people doing great stuff in the breathwork community, Patrick McEwen, Brian McKenzie, there are all these incredible people doing this work, WIM HOF.
Yeah.
But my lab's been mainly focused on what is the neural machinery that controls these brain-body states. And the reason these physiological sighs work is partially because you offload carbon dioxide, you reinflate the lungs, so when the body has oxygen, it's happy. When it doesn't have oxygen, it gets stressed. But the other reason is the most direct and fastest connection between the brain and body for controlling your state of mind is what's called the phrenic nerve, P-H-R-E-N-I-C. The phrenic nerve connects these neurons that I'm referring to in these 2 brain centers that control breathing with the diaphragm. But actually, stress is wonderful. It actually activates our immune system. So anytime you liberate adrenaline into your bloodstream, you also protect yourself against infection of bacteria and viruses. Because if you think about it, if we had to gather food and we didn't have it, and we had to then pack up and migrate long distances, you can't afford to get sick. And this is why people who work, and then rest, they usually get sick when they finally stop and rest.
Really?
Yeah, it's like the post-finals phenomenon in university, or after the season for a game, or the caretakers thing where you're taking care of somebody who's ill and you're just work, or taking care of young children, and then you finally stop to rest, you go on vacation, and you get slammed with an illness.
Why is that? Because you're being in your comfort zone now? Or
because stress turned off. And adrenaline, so that the stress response recruits the immune organs of the body.